So let's first start with the reporting module. We'll be covering how to create a query, save and share queries, then different types of query which you can create using OpenSpecimen, and how to schedule a query. Then who can create queries? So any user who have access to the query module, that is by default, if you see, a super admin and institute admin will have access to queries. But apart from that, any regular user with roles with the privilege of query will have access to queries. For example, I'll navigate to roles. And if I open an administrator roles, you can see there's a query privilege present, wherein all the permissions of read, create, update, delete, export, import is present. So depending on this resource, the user can access or cannot access the query. Next is which data is visible to the user who is using query. So now, if you know, super admin and institute admins are the higher level users, wherein the super admin can see all the data that is present in the system, and institute admin will be able to see the data that is present in his or her institute. And talking about the roles, as in the regular user, so the user, based on the site and the CP collection protocol, have what access that user is given, that data is visible to the user. So any questions on the roles or the data so far? Okay. Um, then let's move to how to create a query. So Rohan forwarded me some of your requirements which you will be using to create queries. So we'll be using some of those requirements and create queries for now. So here's one example where you want to search some specimens or and show their collection and receive date and time, the frozen date and time, and it should be basically filtered by the organ system. So let me go to, so I'll be using your test server to do the training today. So now you can navigate to queries via two ways. One is from the navigation menu here, you can click to the navigation button. And when you scroll down, there's a query option here. That is one way. Another is there's a widget present. If you see queries, you can also expand this or enlarge this widget and you'll be taken to the queries section. Yeah. So going back to our query, I'll first what you'll need to do is you'll have to click on the create button. Now you'll be taken to the create query page. So here are few different sections present. If you see, there's a select collection protocol button, the add filters sections, and the expression filters section. So when you want to create a query based on a particular collection protocol or collection protocol groups, what you can do is you can click here and select whatever collection protocol you want to select. So for now, what I'll do is I'll select this Arizona training collection protocol. And depending on the CP collection protocol I select, my custom fields or other things will appear in the drop down menu. So now if you don't select any, for example, if I keep none, so what will happen is you will be like the data, whatever you're putting the filters in the query, all the data from the system, depending on what rule you have, will be shown to you. So let me again select the training collection protocol. Now, so we want to search for specific tissue specimens. So what I'll do is, so if you see there's few different sections, that is collection protocol, participant visit. Here you can see the fields which are present in that particular section. So if you're selecting collection protocol, you can also like filter out based on the short title or the collection protocol code. But let me first, like similar, it goes similar with the participant and visit. But let me go to specimen. So as I mentioned, it is tissue specimens, right? So there's no particular way to know if it is a frozen tissue or if it's a tissue slide or if it's a fresh tissue, etc. So what I'll do is I'll select my class. There's a class option and I'll select my filter. So if you see, depending on what type of field you select, there will be n number of operators present. So it will filter out based on the operator you select. So when I say equals, it means uh, from that particular collection protocol, it will take out all the specimens which have my class as tissue. If I say similarly not equals, it will take out the specimens which doesn't have class as tissue. Like it will take out the specimens that are, bring in the specimens that are fluid, molecular, and cell, etc. So another is exist. So exist is basically it will bring out all the class of the specimen. So exist means the specimen exists in the system and you just have to bring it. Then comes the not exist, that is the class of those particular specimens, or if there are any specimens which doesn't have class, you need to pull that out. Next is all. So all will basically pull out all the specimens which have a class as well which doesn't have a class. So exist will bring in the specimen which have a class. For example, any specimen which have class like cell, tissue, fluid, or molecular, and all will it will bring those four specimen with the class as well as any specimen which doesn't have class. Then starts with is basically if you have a class wherein or any particular, for example, let me go to label. This will be very easy, better to tell you. So when I say starts with, you might have labels, set of labels which have a very similar beginning. For example, TR or AL, etc. So you can just put your condition here and the system will search for within the CP because I have selected a CP here, and it will bring out the specimens which have that particular specimen label, which basically starts with AL. Then ends with a similar. It will, like, you will specify what the specimen label will end with. For example, if you have specific WB or etc., whatever. Then contains. So now if you just know that my specimen label contains this particular word, you don't know where it is. Either it's in the beginning, in the middle, or in the end, anywhere. So at that point, you can use contains and put in whatever label you want. Then is one of. So if you have multiple specimen labels with you, so here you can just copy paste those labels, enter your labels here, and the query will pull out those specimens from the system. And not one of will basically pull out, won't like exclude those specimen and pull out the other specimens which are present in the system. So any questions on the filter? Okay. Now if I select some field which is a date field or what do you call it, numeric field, so you will see, give me a minute. So you will see there's other fields as well, less than or equals, greater than or equals, etc. So basically it means when I say less than, so it will bring out the specimen which has initial quantity less than 1. Similarly, less than or equal to will mean it will bring out the specimen quantity which has less than 1 and also 1. It goes same with the greater than or equal to, etc. And in between is basically you put out the values, for example, 1, 2, 3. So it will bring out the specimen which has a value between 1 and 3. Yeah, that's about the different filters you can like use to create your query. Any any questions? Okay. So I have, for ease of the training, I have already created a query. Let me open the, sorry. Yeah. So as I mentioned, I have selected my collection protocol here. Then I have put my specimen labels and exist. That means it will bring out all the specimen labels. Firstly, which labels exist. Then we wanted to see it should be broken down by the organ system. So what I have done is basically the organ system here means um, the anatomic side. So I have just put all. You can also put exists here as in the value exists. I'll say edit. And I'll also explain you what this parameterized filter and hide option will mean. I'll just select the parameterized filter for now. And the last is my specimen class equals tissue. So because it is a like a frozen event and fixed event we wanted, I just put out a class as tissues. So when I say get count, it will basically show me how many specimens or visit or participant it is pulling right now. And when I say view records, so it will show me all the specimen labels and participant visit, etc. But let me also quickly show you how exactly a visit will look or a query will look like when I just create it. Yeah. So now when I say view records, it is basically pulling out all the participant visit, etc. So if you see the the columns present here are quite different than the columns which are present here, right? So what you can do to achieve this? So we like for example, you create a query and you see these columns are not the one which you want. You can also edit or configure your query table based on your requirements. So what you can do is you can click on actions and here there's a column option. When you click on it, it will basically give you all the fields that are present currently and you can select your specific required field. So for now, if I want just PPID, I'll select that. I'll close it. For visit, I just want the visit name. I'll close it. And for specimen, I want my specimen label type, collection received details. I want my lineage, etc. And I say done. So now, for some reason, I also want my collection. Uh, I don't want this ischemia time. So what I can do is I'll go back, open up the date, open up the specimen statistics and unselect this. So basically this will remove my ischemia time. But what if I want my lineage not to be at the end or not to be at the last column? What I can do is I can pick this up and put wherever I want. So if I want it below the specimen label, I can put it here. Similarly, if I say done, it will show me the way I want. So PPID, name, specimen label, and lineage. So if you see, there's no column. So there's no section on the left hand side mentioning the filters, right? So this is because we selected parameterized filter in our query. So when I say when I select a particular filter, it will basically give me the results only of that organ. If I just want some other filter, I'll select that and it will give me those results. Yeah. So any questions for this? Okay, you can also stop me in between if you like, if you feel something is off or if you have any doubts or questions. Um, then now, for example, there's one more option which you can do. So now if I want to, this is my query, right? Now if I want to edit something in my filter, you can do it by clicking on actions and click on edit. So it will take me back to my query creation page. Here we had one more option as hide option. So I'll select it and say edit. So now when I go back, And if you see, there's nothing currently present here. I can like, if you have, you can just write that down and it will pull out the values for it. So one, yeah, I think I wrote wrong, wrong organ. So the here what is required is you need to put correct initials, correct letters, correct spelling, etc. So this is mostly useful when you create, like when you have a set of specimen labels or any identifier like PPID or visit ID or barcodes. So at that time, this hide option is useful where you can just copy paste your label and it will filter out your options for you. So that was about creating a query. Any questions till now? So I can just move ahead with other part. Okay. So next is about saving a query. So once you have created, it is very obviously important to save the query. So to save, what you can do is click on actions, save, and like create a query with the header you want and save. Yes, I think I wrote the spelling wrong. Sorry. Yeah. So there are two options here, save a copy and save. So when you say save a copy, a similar query will be created when you just want to copy your query. You don't have to create it from uh, scratch. You can just say save a copy and just make the changes you want in your copied query. And even if you edit, say save. So it will just save your changes. That's one part. Next is about exporting your reports. So what if you want to export your reports? Whatever you have pulled out your data and now you want it in an Excel sheet. You can do it by clicking on export and it will basically download a CSV file. Let me show you that as well.
Yeah, your screen is not shared, Ankita. We can only see open specimen.
Yeah. Give me a minute. Actually, I'm opening the file. Share, share. Yeah. I hope you can see right now. This, yeah, yes. So yeah, this is my downloaded report. So all the like columns which I had selected for my query. Give me a minute. Three. So these are the columns I had selected. Sorry. Yeah, these are the columns I had selected. Those are shown here. And who exported it at what time? All the data is can be downloaded here. So that's about downloading your query. You can also perform various actions here, like selecting your query. When you click on specimen, all the actions which are present in the edit button, sorry, actions button on the list view pages, you can all see here and it works all the same. Also, the add to cart button, you can like add your specimens to cart and then you can distribute from there. The process will be same. So that's about creating a query.
Just a moment, Ankita. So I think in the last training session, Brandon and somebody asked that how can I select specific specimens based on my criteria, and then if I want to add it to cart, how I can do that. So all such things can be done via this screen. So all you need to do is build the right queries so that all your necessary specimens are pulled out, and then you can choose to add it to cart, or you can also choose to directly distribute it right away. So that depends on your internal process, but from what we understand, you require usually 2 to 3 days time to distribute it. So adding to cart and then distributing via cart is a suitable option. But otherwise, as Ankita was showing just now, from the specimens you can distribute it directly.
Yeah, you can also like create your own cart from the page. Like the process all remains similar, which is on the other pages. Yeah, that's about creating. Any questions on that?
I have a question. So we tried making a query right now as we were following along with you, but we just have a question because on type, we want plasma between certain dates that's available. And under type, we see plasma, but there's other stuff like whole blood and urine. And yeah, those are the main other, and serum that are coming up. How can we filter it to make sure it just returns plasma that's available and we
Yeah,
don't see
so
the urine?
yeah. So what you can do is, if you see there's a field known as type. When you click on it and say equals, you can actually select the plasma specimen type here and say add. So now, if you see, earlier there were 308 records and now it's just 144. So all the specimens currently, if you see the type, all are plasma. If you can also like filter, if you just want like lineage, if you want it to be aliquot, you can also say lineage equals aliquot and it will filter out those as well. So there's only 88 specimens which has a lineage aliquot and which are plasma specimens.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So similarly, there are many like all the fields which you see by default in UI, like the pathology status or anatomic site collection, receive details, etc. These all can be filtered and you can build your query based on that. Similarly, for participant, if you have particular MRN or if you want to see if the only for the patients who have vital status as alive, you can just put that and you can just narrow down your query. So there's no specimens participant present currently. Yeah.
I had a question.
Yes.
So I was wondering if there's an easy way to say, let's say we wanted just the first plasma for that visit from every donor. Is there any way to just select like the first one?
Yeah, you can actually do that. We have an option of, oh, sorry. Let me go to sequence. Specimen aliquot sequence, when you say less than or equal to 1, it basically pulls out your first plasma from a particular visit. So it's just 16 right now. Mm. Uh, if you want to, you can just increase your conditional value here for aliquot sequence and you'll get your results.
Is that sequence based off of the sample type, or is that across the entire visit?
It because I have put plasma here, so across the visit, that particular in a participant visit, wherever my first plasma will be present, it will pull out that.
Oh, okay, so that's based on the results of whatever's before it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Okay.
If you want for particular, yeah.
I'm not quite sure if we could back up, and I didn't quite understand your clarifying question, Brandon. What I was thinking is, I understand how it shows the sequence at 1, but how does that going to work as we change things, as things go out? Like if I wanted to build a query that said I want one plasma from everybody in there, regardless of what sequence number it is. I just want anyone that has a plasma available. I want one from every patient.
Yeah.
So when
hi.
you
It's yeah, the kind of the attribute name is a bit confusing. but it actually means that it will bring the first available aliquot,
Okay.
irrespective of, if you have, say, for example, there are 5 plasma aliquots for a particular participant and you have given away the first aliquot, it will bring back the first available. So that will bring back the second one.
Okay, I was hoping that's what it meant because I wasn't sure if the sequence definition changed with availability, really is what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So right now we might not have the exact data to show that, but can you click on view records, Geeta? So yeah, right now, if you see the participant 21 seems to be getting the third aliquot. Can you click on that participant or no, sorry, it's still the first aliquot. I'm sorry, seeing the visit name. Yeah, so we don't have the data. Most of them, yeah, the 28. Can you click on that? Let's see
There
the
is
first one.
there is one for the second aliquot.
Yeah, that's what we clicked. Let's see why it got the second one. Scroll down.
The first one is distributed.
Yeah. So, and one more thing I wanted to clarify is you mentioned you want the first aliquot in the visit. This is more of first aliquot per parent. So if a particular visit has 2 blood samples from which plasma aliquots are made, it would get 1 from each of those parent. Did that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. So it's based on the query that's before it, or is it that each subtype has a special sequence number? So basically, is it just taking the output from the query that's above that line and then saying, okay, we'll take the first one for each visit, basically?
Each
Or
parent
each
basically.
parent
So
specimen. Sorry, each parent specimen
yeah,
for each, with it
yeah.
broken down by visit
Correct.
above that. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. But it would bring back the first available aliquot. So if some of them are distributed or maybe disposed or something like that, it would bring the next available aliquot.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, and that sequence can be anything. Like if we put as 1, if you put 2, then it would bring back 2 aliquots.
So will it tell you if that's the last aliquot available for that sample? Because sometimes
No.
we don't want to give away the last aliquot.
Yeah, true. No, that doesn't work right now.
Is there a way to check that?
I mean, you can use the count-based report to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, so like you can have a saved count-based report, which will show the count of aliquots by type for each patient in a particular protocol if you want. Especially if you have, some special samples that, you don't want to distribute, you can have a count-based report and maybe schedule it so that you get a report every week or every month, and you have an idea about, how many patients have just 1 aliquot of, plasma remaining or urine remaining and so on.
Okay.
Okay, so let me continue. Yeah. So another things I wanted to cover is now when you create a user creates a query, that queries are basically only seen by the user who has created initially. So now if you want some other user uh, to be able to see those queries, we have an option of sharing the queries. What you will have to do is you will have to select your query. For example, I'll select these queries and say assign. So if there's an option of new folder, you can create a folder with a name like, and put in the users who you want to share it with. or if you have created a user group, particular user group, you can put that group as well. And if you want those queries to be able to like for all the current and future user, what you can do is click here. So for now, I'll say current and future and say create. So this query folder will be shared to all the users who are currently has current account in OpenSpecimen. Okay. Yeah. So if you see, there's my folder, that is what I created, and all the queries which I have shared are present here. So that was about creating a query, sharing a query. Then next is let's move on to next part. That is count based queries. So now if you want to know a number of specimens of particular organ or number of specimens who have been distributed, you can all do using count based queries. So I have already created one based on one of your example, that is specimens categorized by organ and the number of specimens for that organ. So when yeah, this is my query. So there are two main things here. One is organ and another is my specimen label. So these two things are constant here, wherein I have parameterized my organ just because you want to filter your organs later. And now when I say view records, it has now given me a pivot table. I'll also show you how to do that. So I'll say actions and columns. So now you will select whatever fields you want to be able to seen on your count based queries in your table. The main three fields which we require now are the specimen label, type, and anatomic site. When I say next, you can also change your field labels here. So for example, I want my anatomic site to be organ. Specimen type is specimen type. Label, I'll just keep as label. Next. So here is where you put your count. So in your query, when you create a count-based query, there should be at least one field that is unique when you are creating a count-based query. So here, each specimen label present in the collection protocol is unique. So I have put count as for labels. You can also put it for PPID or visit like visit label, which are generated uniquely by system or you. Then there's barcode, etc. And now I'll say next. So for this report, which you can see in columns, this is known as pivot table. If you don't want to see it in columns, I'll also show you next how it can be done. But the row fields are basically what you want to see it in row. Columns are the column one, and the values are the one which we created count for. So my specimen label count will be the value fields. And I say done. So if you see, the specimen type is this, specimen type is this, and this is my organ. So when I click here and select a particular organ, it will give me count for those. So organ abdomen has three specimen types with these particular numbers. So that's how you create a count query. Any questions? Okay, so let me move to next example, that is number of fresh tissues distributed per organ. So I'll go to queries, and this is the query I have already created. When I say edit, if you see, my first part is my specimen is fresh tissue. So I have selected my specimen type as fresh tissue. I'll also show you edit karke. Now, next is it should be a tumor. So my pathological status will be tumor. And you want to distribute it, like you want to see it per organ. So I have put organ and say parameterized it. And the last is my you want to see the specimen, those are fresh tissue, pathological status as tumor, and are distributed. So I will say distributed event ID exists. So if you see, go to specimen and say distribute event, there's an event called as distribution event. This distributed event ID I have put as exist. So now I'll say view records. So if you see, only there are two specimens which are fresh tissue and that are distributed. So if you see the table here, and the earlier one was quite different. So when I say columns, I go next, next, next. If you see, there's nothing I have selected here. So that's the reason it just gave me the count and what type it is, organ, etc. Any questions? So currently, if you see, there's only abdomen NOS, but if there are many, it would have appeared here and you could select the one which you want. Any question? Okay. So let me go back to the temporal queries. Now, these queries are helpful when you want to create conditional queries, like if you want to create a search for specimens which or participant which are 18 or above. So at this point, there's no like particular fields to search for that. So we have a query feature known as temporal queries, where you can build your conditions or temporal queries, and it will give you the results. So one of your example was number of specimens collected per month, and those were broken down by the organ system. So yeah, so here, when you are creating a temporal query, if you see, there's an add filter option, and there's a button here, add filter. When you click on it, you can put in your temporal expressions here. The temporal expressions, how to build it, etc., can be found on the wiki page. Let me also open that up to show you. Yeah. So if you see, there's a wiki page dedicated to temporal queries, wherein all the codes, as in what you can use to create a temporal query, are mentioned here. So we have also put some examples and what can be the code for it. It is still loading, but we have screenshots. You see, we have put here the temporal query expression, and also once you like start typing your temporal query like years between, it starts to appear one by one, and that's how you build your expression. Once you like get used to it, start using it, you will get hang of it. Currently I have used a date format, and if you see, there's already expression present here, as in what needs to be added, etc., desired expression, and you can put that here and it will give you the results. So when I say get count, it is showing me the results, and I'll say web records. So I've again created a pivot table just to show you by December 2022 for not specified organ, four specimens were collected. By March, there were 188 specimens collected for not specified, 7 for gallbladder. You can also like filter based on here. So when I say abdomen, it is showing me that in this was only collected in March, and those are 7 specimens. Any questions?
Yeah, sorry. Just to add on that, so temporal queries mainly allow you to do any calculations between two dates. The most common use case which we have seen that people use this for is, time difference between frozen time and collection time. So you want to understand how long the specimen was out of the freezer. So if you want to find the time difference between two dates, you can use this temporal query. And as Ankita mentioned, there are a lot of examples in that web page. And the other example is you want to find the age of the participant, because you only have the birth date field and maybe field like visit date or the specimen collection date. If you want to find the age of the participant at collection, so it's nothing but the years between the collection date and the participant date of birth. So this is like a calculations you're doing, right? So that is why this temporal expression is needed. Otherwise, if you're adding just filters, you don't need to use this. This is more for if you're doing calculation. And in your particular example, we use temporal expression because the collection date has the day, the like it is 20th March 1991 and the time. But what you wanted is just the month of that, the month and year part from that whole date. So since we had to do the processing, that's the reason the temporal expression is used. Okay, yeah, Ankita, you can continue.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are some other features which also support in query. Yeah. So, for example, deleting a query, you can like click on the three dots here and click on delete. Your query will be deleted. If you want to edit, three dots and click on edit. You can add your filter, remove, or change the CP name, etc. Then there's one feature known as import and export of query. So now you have already created a query in your test environment and you want like for testing, and that is all fine, everything is working as you wanted. Now, if you want the similar query in your production environment to fetch the results, instead of doing it like adding filters all one by one, going through it, what you can do is click on three dots, click on download query. This will basically download a JSON file. And when you go to production environment, you'll have to click on import and choose your file and say import. So this will import your file and your query will be created with no issue. So that was one part. About the export, I mentioned earlier that if you want to export your data, you can click on export and a CSV file is downloaded. But if your data is huge, right? So at that time, the system takes time and the downloading process will be happening in the backend and you will receive a notification. The user who is currently downloading the data will get a email notification mentioning that your CSV export is done with a link and the CSV file written. So you can download your CSV file from there. So last part about queries is scheduling a query. So Purnima mentioned earlier, like you can create your query and there were some cases where the queries are run weekly. What you can do is you can create a query and you can click on schedule. So you can mention at what interval the query should be run. Either it's on demand or you can say weekly at the Monday on at every 11 hours. So this is the time when the query will run and you can set to whom you want to share the job, who should receive the notifications, etc. So this is how you can create a job. There are also system jobs that are already present currently. So if you see these system which are running And if you see, the last run is currently 21st March. When I click here and say view runs, I can see if my query was run or not, and what time did it take to run the whole query. If it fails, it basically shows status as fails. And yeah, that's about your job and scheduling queries. So any questions on queries or anything else? Okay, so we just have 10 minutes left to finish today's session. Do you want me to continue with
No, I think there is,
catalog?
yeah, the invite is for another 40 minutes. So I think we can continue.
Okay. Yeah. So next part we'll be covering in this session is specimen catalog. So we'll learn like how to share your data with researcher, how to create a catalog, how to handle the request which researcher sends, and how to process those requests. So yeah, sorry. So specimen catalog will help you to publicize your biospecimen data with the researchers, where researcher can see the required specimens you have in your system and appeal or request for those particular specimens. So I'll explain you how the process of catalog works. So anyone was speaking? Okay. Yeah. So the first part of the catalog is the request. So once you create a catalog and share your URLs with the uh, researchers, so at that point, researchers can go through all the specimens which are currently present in your catalog, and he or she can select those specimens and add to cart and submit a request. So depending on who is the request manager for the catalog, the yeah, who is the request manager of the catalog, that he or she will receive a notification that there's an uh, request submitted for the catalog, and the request managers can check if all the requirements are met or not, if the specimens are present in the biospecimen, sorry, in the lab or not, etc., and approve, reject the request. So once that is done, the next part will be to distribute the specimen. So any user like technician or the research manager himself can distribute the specimens to the researcher. So that's how end-to-end process of catalog works. Any questions on? I'll show you how it works, or give you a demo a bit later, but any questions on this? Okay. Yeah. So next is, I talked about email notifications. So whenever a request is submitted, the request manager will receive an email email notification stating the new request is generated. And when you click on view request, will be taken to the OpenSpecimen page where the request is present. This is basically a link. And once it is approved or rejected, at that point as well, the researcher who has submitted the request will get an email notification saying your specimens has been approved or rejected, etc. So once it is approved, you'll obviously uh, send for distribution. So at that point as well, so whoever is linked to the distribution protocol, whoever gets the notifications, will also get a notification saying that order was distributed to so and so distribution protocol. So yeah, that's about the email notification. Let me walk you through the process now. So this is a researcher account who has catalog access. If you see, not all of the topics like the users or sites, institute, etc. are seen here. Only few are seen because I've given just that access. So as a researcher, I can go to catalog one and check the catalog I want. Or if you, as a researcher, when I say view catalog, 1 minute, let me go to catalog as this is a super admin account. So I have all the access to the catalog. I'll just open that catalog and show you view catalog configuration. So if you see, once a catalog is created, a URL is generated. So when I click on, when I give the URL to the user, he or she can use the particular URL. They will be navigated to this page, like the dashboard, and I'll say view catalog here. So from here, as I mentioned, the user can select all the specimens he or she wants. So one of your use case was to like once it is approved, the researcher can again request for 50 aliquots of serum, which has which is from, I think, colon. So from the type, I'll select serum. Then the lineage, I'll select as aliquot. And from the organ, I'll select as colon. And now, if I also want my pathology status, I'll also select it as tumor. So it just brought me these. These are only specimens currently available. So what the researcher will do is it will select, say, add to cart, and the specimens will be added to cart. Now from here, what the researcher can do is say submit request. So there will be a submit request form the researcher will have to fill, which is a mandatory one. You can use, you can create one of your own, and I'll show you how to add it in the catalog. So I'll just currently put why I want it and my shipping address, and I'll say submit. So yeah, so once I submit, as a request manager, if I go to my catalog, there's a field of request manager. There are two currently selected. One is my account and another is an account, user account named as request manager. He or she will get, like both will get an email notification saying there's a request submitted, like I showed you earlier. And when you click on this, you will be taken to the request page. Or now I'll also show you as a request manager. Now this is a request manager account with administration rights. So now I can go to catalog. There's another way apart from the email. You can go to catalog. When I click on view catalog configurations and say view request, it will show me all the requests that are available. So now if you see, this 8th request is a recently created and is in still pending state. When I click on it, I'll be taken to that particular request. Now here you can either select your approve request depending on all the situations you see. So if you click on the specimen tab here, you see there's label, the description, the from where it is searching, and if it is stored or not. Everything is available here. So what you can do is either approve or reject. So once you approve or reject, everything will be sent via email. So you can see, say why you have approved it or why you have rejected it. And you can also select whom the notification should go. So yeah, you can select, and by default it also goes to the request manager, etc. And I say approve. So once my request is approved, now what the request manager or the user will do is will go to specimens. Either like click on this all specimens which are available and click on distribute. So when you click on distribute, you'll select the distribution protocol, and all the particular details will come back, and you can say next, add in all the details you want, and say distribute. Oops. I think I missed something, but yeah, the bottom point is key. Yeah, you can, when you click on distribute, an order will be created. I'll also show you how it looks like. So if I go to order, yeah, so let me go back to my okay. So if I go to orders, yeah, if you see, there's few distribution happened with the protocol, and the specimens which are distributed. So once the specimen is also distributed, the user, like whoever is notified based on what the distribution protocol has, for example, the principal investigator, coordinators, etc., will get the email notification that these samples are distributed. So that's about the last process, as in you request, you review, and then you distribute. Uh, any questions? I'll move ahead. If not, I'll move ahead with the uh, catalog creation part.
Yeah, but before we do that, is this something that is of use to you? So, do you plan to give access to the researchers so that they can request the samples on their own?
Yeah, in some cases we will do that. Other cases, they won't be as be comfortable with making queries. So we'll have to get an overview of what they want and create the queries for them. And then I think there's, I forget what it's called, but isn't there like a way to get a catalog without having an OpenSpecimen account, like an outward-facing website?
Yeah, you can also do that.
She'll explain that. She'll explain how to configure so that you don't really need to log in.
Yeah. So to like navigate to catalogs, you can click on the navigation menu and go to catalogs. So there's a create button present, wherein different details you can enter, as in the title of the catalog, the description. So if you see, yeah. So when I say view catalog, this is Arizona catalog training. This is what appears when you enter a title. So if you see, that's my title currently, and this is what is seen to the researcher. Display is basically, you can restrict each user or other users to like see what they see. For example, for my particular catalog, when I refresh this page, I can see my dashboard. Let me go back. Catalogs, view catalog. So I can see this dashboard here, and when I click on view catalog, I can see the catalog. So when you uncheck this, the dashboard won't appear. When you uncheck the catalog won't appear. So there's also review card, the request form. So you can also, there's a cart option, right? So when you remove the review cart, you won't be able to see the cart options. And the request form is basically the form which I added at the last. So these are the display options you can show to researcher. Then there's search query. So there are two main queries while creating a catalog. One is search query and another is items detail query. So search query is the one which a researcher will see. So if I go to queries, if you see, there's a query I have created, that is search query. So all the fields which you want, you will like filter it out and take out the data from it. Just one thing which is necessary here is to parameterize the filters. So if you see, the filters I am seeing here all are parameterized. So I can select what I want from the filter here. So that's why you will parameterize your filter. Again, when a researcher has number of IDs or of like participant or specimens, at that time, what you'll do is for hide option, you'll select as yes. So if I go here and say specimen label, there's nothing coming at the drop down. So you will have to copy paste your labels here. So that's about search query. So whatever you apply filter and put parameterized filter will be seen here. And when you say view records, whatever you put in the columns, actions column, whatever you select will be present on the will be present here. So that's about the columns and the filters. Then there's another part. Yeah, let me go back. Search results column. So you can now, if I particular select a query, search query, I can see the columns which are present here in the drop down. So now if I particularly want the researcher to see only the specimen labels, the anatomic site, etc., that I can do it via selecting the um, columns I want. Or now if as a researcher this is very cluttered, I don't want to see all these fields. What I can do is I can click on columns and select the fields I want to see. So the specimen label, type, anatomic site, initial available quantity, and done. So only those fields will be shown. Uh, then the items detail query. Now this is the query which will be used for the request managers um, to show the specimens that have been selected. Now, one thing which is mandatory in items details query is the identifier in the columns. So when you select a column of specimens, the specimen identifier should always be selected for this, as it links the identifier and the specimen label for the particular researcher, and then he can go further. So that's about the items detail query. So now if you see, I'll also quickly show you. There are few columns I have selected, and container name is something that is different here. So now I'll go as my researcher, navigate to catalog, say view catalog configuration, view request, open up my request and specimens. The columns like the location which was mandatory that was shown here, the labels, description, etc. can be seen. That's about the items details query. Another is request form. Now this is what I was talking about earlier. So when a researcher submits a request, there should be a form that researcher needs to fill with few um, details like what is the name of the researcher. For example, if that researcher is not from to user current user, what you can, so from where the researcher is, why the researcher needs, etc. You can create a request form and add it. So currently there is a specimen request detail form already present here. So you know, sorry. So from the forms module, you can create your required form and select your form here. So that's one. Then the request manager. So request managers will be the ones who will approve, reject, or distribute. Sorry. The specimens that are requested. So these request managers should have access to the catalog. So for example, the user which I created, that needs to have a role. This was a regular user. So when I go to role of that particular user, that has an administrator role, and administrator role has access to like read of catalog and specimen added it access. So that's request managers. Then the show items are basically so as a researcher, when I load my screen, when I load my catalog, view catalog, this is the screen I see. I can see all the options, all the specimens that are available coming. So when you see, select when filters are selected. So at that time, when you say view catalog, there won't be anything present here. Once you start selecting your filter, at that point, only the particular data will be pulled and shown to the researcher. On load is basically when you say like this, when you say view catalog, everything present will be shown. Then requires login. So this is what I think you require. So basically, if a researcher is not from OpenSpecimen, what you can say is requires login as no. So when you say no, at that point, the link that is generated after creating a catalog will be accessible to all the users, to anyone who has links. So anyone, if I am a researcher, I have that link, I can like go to that particular link and I can request for my samples. Then show app buttons is basically when you, if like when you log in to your OpenSpecimen, you see a default dashlet, right? I'll also show that to you. Okay. So this is the default dashlet. And you see these are the buttons. So as I'm currently logged in, I can see there's no sign in button, but if I would have not logged in, there wouldn't be any, there would be a sign in button present here. So this is what of this, yeah. So this is about the show app button. So if you see for this catalog, there's no button present, only the online help about OpenSpecimen, etc. Then there's help URL, like if you want the researcher to follow a standard procedure, as in you want to show key, this is how you request a specimen, this is how you filter out your specimen, you can just create a document and give a link here, and it will appear on the like when the user accesses the link. So yeah, that's about the creation of catalogs. So when I say catalog URL, when once you create a catalog, this URL will be automatically generated by the system. You can give this URL to the researcher. If requires login is yes, the user will have to have a login details. If it is no, the user once he or she clicks the link can directly access the catalog and request for the specimens. So any questions on this?
I guess just one quick one. Is it possible for the researcher to submit a form without a without selected specimens if they don't want to run the query, they just want to give us like a description of what they would like us to give them?
No, that's not possible.
Okay. But we could put a link to like, or we could put instructions on how to send us those types of requests, I guess, through email or something like that. I think that would work on that page if they get to it.
Yeah. But in that case, do you want them to see what is available, or not even that? You just want them to fill up a form and send it?
We want them to see what's available. They just may not be comfortable building a query. It might help them figure out what they want if they can see it, though.
Yeah. So that is possible. So can you edit this? If you see there is that display option, if you remove the review card option, then they don't have to select and put it to cart. It will directly take them to the request form after they have seen what is available.
Okay. Can they add nothing to cart and then go to the request form?
Yeah, Ankita, can you just go over that?
Yeah. So if, like Purnima suggested, I removed the display cart option from the display. So now if you see, there's no cart button present. Even if I'm selecting, there's no cart available. So at that time, the researcher can directly submit a request, filling the forms, adding in what he or she requires, and say submit a request.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And even this catalog you're seeing right now, since this is all controlled by a saved query, you can basically even show just the aggregate data if you want. For example, right now in her catalog, she has included the PPID and specimen label. So every row is a specimen. But if you don't want that, you can even just show counts so that when they apply filter, for example, they say, type equals fresh tissue and organ is colon, then it will just say how many of such specimens are existing rather than showing each helicot as a separate row. So that's also a possibility.
Okay.
Anything else? Which we
And
can cover?
I assume since you have different groups and different protocols, do you plan to create multiple catalogs catering to different requirements of the labs?
Yes, we will be.
Okay.
Okay. If there are no other questions, anything else apart from this particular topic you want to discuss or have any questions about?
Yeah, so the queries we showed today, we'll create a training folder and add those queries to the training folder and share with all users. So you can log in and try it out and let us know if you have more questions. So you can also try creating new queries for your requirements and let us know if you have more questions.
Sounds good.
Okay, thanks everyone. Bye-bye. Have a good day.